How's it going, everyone? It's been a while since I've done a video, but this is my fourth year sort of doing these explanations where I walk you through the various military surplus firearms I've acquired from year to year, tell you under what circumstances they were acquired, online, at a shop, at a show, provide you price examples, and also tell you a little bit about what I'm collecting and why, and maybe a little bit about the current marketplace. Now, I realize a lot of people do these videos, but this is just to add some data points to the conversation and inform you about the US surplus collecting market over the last 12 months, what trends I've seen on the marketplace, and what I've done to enhance my personal collection. I also want to add that in this past year, I've done the least amount of collecting that I've done in the last 5 years. While I typically add 5 to 6 new rifles to my collection each year, I only acquired 2 rifles these past 12 months. Getting married next year, I've done a lot of traveling, and life has been pretty busy, so I haven't had the disposable income that I'm typically used to collect firearms. For those of you watching who aren't familiar with military surplus firearms, this refers to firearms that are now considered obsolete by militaries and were sold en masse to civilian markets for cheap for collecting, hunting, or recreational purposes. Generally, military surplus, or milsurps for short, were once imported to the United States in mass quantities from the 1950s up to the 1990s and tended to be pretty inexpensive. This also applies to U.S. military firearms that the U.S. government sold back to civilian markets like M1 Garands, Springfields, and M1 carbines. Typically, imported military surplus came from Europe, South America, and Asia, as old World War II or Cold War era hand-me-downs were being replaced by more modern weapons, and these surplus rifles were considered cheap alternatives to expensive hunting rifles for Americans and Canadians. As sources of importable military surplus began to dry up in the 1990s, many of these surplus rifles are now viewed as historical or collector's items. There was a period after the fall of the Soviet Union when super cheap communist bloc weapons were imported, but nowadays most of your imported military surplus weapons come from Ethiopia and Asia in relatively poor condition. Personally, myself, I only went to 2 shows in the last 12 months here in the Mid-Atlantic area, and I didn't actually buy anything at them, but I can tell you what I saw. First, I saw a ton of Carcanos, lots and lots of Carcanos. We know that they're coming in big numbers from first Ethiopia, and now a lot are coming in from Italy itself. Looking at prices, they were within the $350 to $500 range, but that's still a little higher than what I'm seeing online. But they're there. There's a lot of them that are just sitting in vendors markets. There's a lot of gunsmith Carcanos out there, so Carcanos that are in really, really rough shape, but have very good parts. So yeah, went to a show about 3 months ago, and there were Carcanos everywhere, which is consistent with the imports that we've seen over the last 2 years. I also, weirdly enough, saw a lot of Turkish stuff. There was definitely some Swedish stuff. I'm also seeing, like I said, a lot of gunsmith specials, busted Chiang Kai-shek rifles, obviously more and more sporterized stuff. So you're seeing a lot of sporterized Enfields, some sporterized 1903 Springfields. Nothing too exciting. Like I said, sporterized stuff. As a lot of the milcert market starts drying up, you're going to see a lot of sporterized stuff just kind of sitting on the tables. Saw some K98s, Lee Enfields, M1 Garands were all there like they always are. You're always going to have a supply of those at shows and in shops, but they're going to come at higher prices. Like I said, I bought my first Lee Enfield in 2015, I believe, for $250. The same gun today would probably get you maybe $600–700, depending on condition. There was a lot of Ishapore Lee Enfields that were in the $700–800 range, which was a bit surprising. So these guns are available, but they are demanding a premium at shows. Japanese 99s were like $700, and these were late war type 99s. These were not early war. Early war is now $900 to $1,000 based on what we're seeing. So there wasn't a lot to jump at. Then you had all the modern stuff and a lot of memorabilia and associated related items. The biggest thing I saw at this recent show was that ammo is now readily available in almost every milcert caliber. That was probably my biggest takeaway from the last couple of shows and some shops I've recently gone to. Tons of PPU, Privy Partisan, tons of commercial ammo. A lot of it's in stock. Reloading components are still taking a while to catch up. I can't find some of the IMR powder I'm looking for. Some of the bullets I'm looking for are not available, but in terms of commercially produced ammunition, it's there. And I think that's a positive thing, is that the sort of pandemic ammo shortage is now at an end. Prices are still a little bit higher, but you can get what you want. The supply's there. A box of 30-06 is no longer $40. It's gone down to, $30, or a box of 30-30 is no longer, $35. It's come down to 25, and even some cases you can find some good like 7.5 Swiss for like $22, when a year ago that kind of stuff would have been like $40, even in 2020 or 2021. Like I said, you can't get ammo for like 3 years unless you paid crazy prices, but it's mostly available now, which is a great sign. The other thing I saw was that 6.5 Carcano ammo is now readily available. I saw tons of it at the recent Dulles Gun Show back in March. Lots of it. So I think the ammo supply is finally catching up with the massive influx of Carcano rifles. Like I said, for the last 3 years, Carcanos have been coming in from Italy. They've been coming in from Ethiopia. And the market was saturated with really cheap Carcano rifles. But the biggest thing you were hearing was that, hey, we can't really shoot these because there's no ammo available. There wasn't ammo available for almost 2.5, 3 years. It seems like, and almost all the ammo is PPU. So it seems like the ammo is catching up with demand, which is fantastic. People can go take their rifles they haven't been able to shoot in 2 to 3 years and give them a little bit of action. The other thing I'll mention too is that I don't really buy ammo at shows unless it's like something historical or something that I know I can't find online, or something that just, hey, that's a good deal. But usually there's not a lot of deals at shows anymore. Again, not with non-sporterized rifles. You're just not going to find good deals unless you're buying stuff in quantity. So for ammunition, I do a once-a-year online bulk purchase of 3 to 4 different calibers, and that's pretty much it. This year I got a ton of stuff from SG Ammo, picked up a ton of 303 British, got my first supply of 30-06 for my M1 Garand in almost 3 years. Haven't been able to shoot that gun in quite a while because of the shortage. Those are calibers that I, again, haven't shot in a long time just because it hasn't been around. So it was great that that's back on the menu. But yeah, online orders is the way to go, especially if you're bulk ordering. That's how you're going to get the best deals. Anyway, I've kind of spoken enough about what I've seen in my local market, but I want to kind of go over the 2 rifles I picked up for myself these past 12 months. First up is the French MOS 36, made at Saint-Étienne in about 1952. It's chambered in a 7.5 French cartridge. And I picked this up for about $695 from Simpson Limited. Great customer service, by the way, and they had great shipping. I had never used Simpson Limited before, but after this interaction, it was great. So consider checking out their Milsurp collection. They usually have a lot in supply. The MOS 36 is definitely a weird rifle to handle, but it was the French Army's main rifle when they upgraded their armories in the mid-1930s. They were getting away from the Berthiers and the Lebels. I haven't shot this before, and I've actually never shot a MOS 36, but French rifles are always a little bit unique and a bit different from their European counterparts, which is what I think draws some people to them. And of course, Ian McCollum's showcased these a lot, which also has increased their popularity, but they are unique and actually aesthetically cool-looking rifles. This is a post-war example of a MOS 36 and is import stamped by Numeric Arms. You can kind of see it on the underbelly of the barrel here in Hurley, New York. As far as dating this rifle, it's an FH series, which began its run in June of 1952 and likely ended sometime in December of the same year. It has a post-war tang and bolt plug, post-war floor plate, nose cap with the hood, which was also a post-war thing, post-war trigger guard, the rear sight aperture and barrel band are all post-war, so this is thoroughly a post-war MOS 36. The finish on the rifle is not super great, but that doesn't really bother me if it's a really good shooter. It has a really nice bore actually on it, and I'm hoping to shoot it relatively soon. Bought some surplus French ammunition from the 1960s, so corrosive, but should work pretty well. And even though I originally wanted a World War II configured MOS 36, I saw this for a decent price and decided to scoop it up since they're a pretty pricey item now. I think I'm seeing many of them listed for $1,000 or more, so decided to scoop it up when I saw it. The second rifle I picked up this year is a pre-World War II Tokyo Arsenal made Type 38 Arisaka, chambered in 6.5 Japanese. Actually, this is my first Type 38. I have a couple Type 99s, as you can see back there, in a Type I, but had never picked up a Type 38, and so was happy to do so. It's not import marked, which is kind of neat, and I picked it up for $455 from Eisel Armory on Gunbroker. Now, the interesting thing about this Type 38, it does not have a series marking on it, and it does not have non-matching parts. However, the mum, the chrysanthemum right here, is overstamped with circles around the edges, and then you can barely see it here. The receiver has an added Japanese teach character indicating the rifle was withdrawn from combat use or service use and went to a school for training use or a military training academy. Now, I just want to mention quickly that there are Japanese trainer rifles that are smoothbore and only shoot blanks that are not meant for live fire shooting, but rather for drilling and martial purposes. But this is not one of those guns. This is a fully functional Type 38 rifle that still shoots live ammunition. It was just removed from the line to be used for target practice at training schools or basic training. Now, the metal finish on this rifle has original bluing that shows some wear, but the bore is actually in really good shape for being a training rifle. The stock appears to be Arsenal sanded and refinished at some point. So it's not a bad deal for a Type 38 in 2023. I even have some ammunition for it and plan on shooting this relatively soon. Now, to kind of wrap things up, I don't really plan on buying a ton more milsurps in the next couple of years, unfortunately. Maybe one a year is probably it. Even looking to getting some more modern rifles. Other priorities are just taking over. It's going to be a lot more saving up for something that's very specific on a list. So I've kind of built a list of rifles that I need to fill specific holes in my collection. So just being a little bit more realistic is that I'll find accessories, ammunition, and possibly bayonets to be more specific. The ones that I'm missing, although those are also getting very expensive too. Bayonets can be kind of crazy and sometimes more expensive than the guns themselves. The positive thing here is that I don't have a shortage of guns to shoot, of course. So I'll definitely be out at the range a ton, but I don't think I'll be racking up the 6 to 7 guns a year like I'm used to. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on what you've been seeing on the shelves these past 12 months, and I'll see you all later.